They say you find out who people really are when things get tough. But what happens when you find out who they are and realize they were never who you thought they were in the first place? My brother helped my husband cheat, betrayed my trust, and shattered everything I believed in without a trace of guilt or regret. I'm Jillian, and this is the story of how my life completely fell apart and how I put it back together better than ever. I'm Jillian Matthews. I'm 28, and at the time this all went down, I was a manager at TradeSync Solutions, a trading company. My life was pretty normal. I had a good career, a few close friends, and a really tight-knit family. My parents were great, and my older brother, Marcus, was always the golden child of the family. He and I had our typical sibling rivalry growing up, but I really thought we had an unbreakable bond. He was the fun one, the life of the party, and I was the more serious, career-focused one. Our parents loved him so much, and I just accepted that as our family dynamic. I met Tom at a housewarming party. He was so easy to talk to, with a quiet charm and a smile that just made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We spent hours talking about true crime podcasts, and by the end of the night, we'd swap numbers. We started texting every day, and our first date lasted for hours. The second date led to a third, and a fourth. And before I knew it, we were spending every weekend together. He was so different from the other guys I had dated. He was more mature, more serious about the future, and we just clicked. 6 months in, we moved into his one-bedroom apartment. We had similar goals: save money and build a secure future. A year after we met, he proposed at the same Italian restaurant where we had our first date. I was flying. It was the most perfect night of my life. The weekend after we got engaged, I was so excited for Tom to meet my family. My parents can be a little judgmental. And Marcus had a way of making people feel either completely at ease or totally uncomfortable. Mom was so happy, and Dad was all business, asking Tom about his job and our future plans. But what really mattered was how Tom and Marcus hit it off. It was like they were brothers already. They found out they were both huge fans of the same football team, and it was game over. Marcus even put his arm around Tom and said he'd always wanted a brother, but just got a troublemaker, gesturing to me. They were laughing and joking, and it was so wonderful to see them get along so well. After that, everything was a blur. My mom was in charge of the flowers. My dad handled the venue, and Marcus, he declared himself Tom's unofficial bachelor party coordinator and drinking buddy. They started getting together every Friday night for beers, and I was so happy to see my fiancé and brother become such good friends. We had a beautiful backyard wedding at my parents' house, and when we kissed, I really believed we were starting our happily ever after. We moved into Tom's apartment, and we started saving up for our own home. It was a competition to see who could save the most for the down payment. We'd stay in on weekends, cook meals at home, and just save. But about 3 months in, Tom started complaining that we were turning into an old married couple. I tried to remind him of our goals, but he just wanted to go out. That's when Marcus started inviting him to guys' nights on Fridays. I was a little worried at first, but Marcus promised me he'd keep an eye on him. I trusted him. He was my brother. And honestly, it was nice to have some time to myself. A year into our marriage, I was feeling so good about our progress. I'd saved a little over $30. Crescent zero. And I couldn't wait to see how much Tom had saved. Then, one Thursday night at dinner, he told me he and Marcus were going on a fishing trip up at Lake Webster for the weekend. I was so surprised. I thought we were going to spend the weekend together. But then Marcus came to our door, all dramatic, and got on his knees, begging me to let Tom go. He gave me his puppy dog eyes, and I couldn't help but laugh. I told him he could go, but they better catch some fish to brag about. They left early Saturday morning, and I was so bored. So I called Sarah, Marcus's girlfriend, to see if she wanted to go shopping. But when I called her, she sounded confused. She said Marcus wasn't fishing, that he was there with her at her house, and they were getting ready to go to her parents for the weekend. My heart just dropped. Why would they lie to me? I asked her not to tell Marcus I called and hung up. I was in a complete daze. I couldn't believe it. I just sat on the bed, staring into space, trying to figure out where Tom was. His laptop was on his desk, and I just felt this, I don't know, this compulsion to look at it. We'd always been so open with each other, so I knew his password. His mother's birthday. I typed it in with shaking hands, and there it was. His social media accounts were open, and I saw her name, Rebecca. The messages went back for months. Every message I read, I felt like I was being punched in the stomach. He called her baby and said he couldn't wait to see her this weekend. She asked him if I'd bought the fishing story, and he wrote back, "Yeah, my brother-in-law's got my back. He's a legend." She's so clueless. The texts were filled with intimate details, hotel reservations, and plans for weekend getaways disguised as business trips. But then I saw a different chat, a thread with Marcus, my brother, my protector. I opened it, and it was just so much worse. She totally bought it again. Tom wrote, "Your sister's as gullible as ever." Marcus replied, "Remember when we were kids, and I convinced her that ice cream grew on trees. She's never gotten any smarter." They talked about their trips to strip clubs, the girls they met, and how they laughed at me and my meticulous savings plans. They joked that I'd probably end up paying for everything anyway because I was such a sucker. The brother, who had held my hand in the hospital and cried at my wedding, was calling me stupid, naive, and boring. It made me physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came back to the laptop, my hands were steady. With cold precision, I forwarded every single message to my own email account. Every joke, every lie, every piece of evidence. I spent the rest of the night making phone calls and researching apartments. By Sunday morning, I'd found a furnished one-bedroom across town, paid the deposit with my savings, and signed the lease. I was done. Tom came home late Sunday afternoon, acting all happy, with a bag of frozen fish. "Hey, babe, you should have seen the ones that got away," he said. And I just looked at him. I had his laptop open, showing his messages with Rebecca. I thought he'd at least try to apologize. But he didn't. He just looked at me and said, "Do you want to know the truth? Jillian, you've gotten boring. You just worry about saving money and planning for the future. Where's the fun?" I was so shocked. I cut him off when he started to say, "Even Marcus said," and told him I already knew what Marcus said. He just started running his hand through his hair, all frustrated, and said, "Maybe it's for the best. We clearly want different things." He was right. I stood up and pulled my pre-packed suitcase from behind the couch. "I'm filing for divorce," I told him. "Don't worry about your savings. You can keep them. I doubt there's much left anyway after all those strip clubs and hotel rooms." I spent the rest of the day moving my stuff into my new apartment. It was small and cozy, but it was mine. That evening, I went to my parents' house for Sunday dinner. I knew Marcus and Sarah would be there. When I got there, I just walked right up to Marcus and asked, "How'd you spend your weekend?" Covering for Tom's affair. The room went silent. Marcus went pale, and Dad asked what I was talking about. So I took out my phone and read all the messages out loud. All the jokes about me, the strip club visits, the lies, the way they made fun of me. Sarah was getting more and more horrified with every word. When I was done, she looked at Marcus, and tears were streaming down her face. "Is this true?" She choked out. He couldn't even look at her. He just said, "Sarah, please." Then she slapped him. The sound echoed in the silent room. "We're done," she said, grabbing her purse and running out the door. I thought my parents would be on my side, but Mom started crying, and she went straight to Marcus. "Look what you've done," she screamed. "You've ruined your brother's relationship." I just stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious? Did you not hear a word I just said?" Dad just shook his head and said, "Boys will be boys. You're exaggerating a small issue." My brother looked up at me with red eyes and said, "Yeah, see, Sib, very classy move. You just had to bring everyone into this, didn't you?" And that's when it hit me. They were never going to see it. They were never going to choose me. So I looked at all of them, told them they could have each other, and walked out of the house. I haven't spoken to them since. The divorce was so fast. Tom tried to take half of my money, claiming it was marital assets. But even his own parents told him to stop. He dropped the claim, and I got to keep all the money I had saved. With the betrayal of my husband and my family behind me, I was finally able to focus on what I wanted. To be successful, I started working harder than ever, taking on every difficult project. My first big win was with a client everyone had given up on. I completely reorganized their entire system and increased their profitability by 47%. My boss noticed, and I got promoted to a management position. I was so proud of myself that I bought a brand new black Mercedes. 6 months later, I closed on a 2-bedroom apartment in the best part of the city. I was completely independent, and I had done it all myself. I hadn't spoken to my family in over 2 years. One day, my parents showed up at my new apartment. I was shocked. I looked through the camera and saw them standing there, looking older and so tired. I buzzed them in, and my mom immediately said, "Jillian, you look wonderful." I just asked what they wanted, and they told me it was about Marcus. He had gone into a complete downward spiral after Sarah left him. He got fired from his job for being drunk at his desk, and he was living back at home with them. They wanted me to get him a job at my company. I couldn't help but laugh. You want me to risk my reputation, which I built from the ground up, to give a job to the brother who helped my husband cheat on me. My mom started crying, saying that people make mistakes. Mistakes. I said, my voice completely cold. Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. What Marcus did was a choice. My dad told me if I didn't help my brother, they would disinherit me. I just looked around my beautiful apartment, smiled, and said, I don't need or want anything from you. I think it's time for you to leave. I held the door open until they left. My mother was crying, and my father was ranting about ungrateful daughters. But I just stood there, completely calm. I heard from a mutual friend that Marcus is now doing odd jobs in the neighborhood, mowing lawns and painting fences, just to get money for drinks. Tom got bored with a broke friend and moved on. As for me, I'm loving my life. I poured myself a glass of expensive wine, walked out onto my balcony, and watched the city lights below. I don't feel sad or angry anymore. I just feel grateful. My family's betrayal and my ex-husband's cheating were the worst things that ever happened to me, but they also led to the best things. They forced me to stand on my own 2 feet and build a life for myself that I never would have had otherwise. And for that, I am forever grateful.